Hello and welcome everyone, I'm Madals and welcome to another StarCraft 2 Heart of the Swarm cast. And today we have got in front of us a very lovely game. It is a TVZ and it is on Daybreak. So without further ado, let's introduce these two players. Spawning in the top right position, the Red Terran from Team FXO. It's Neeb. And his opponent spawning in the bottom left, the Blue Zerg from Team Evil Geniuses. It is Stephano. So, at the time of recording this, let me give you a quick little rundown of just how good these two are. Stephano is currently ranked 2 on the Grand Masters ladder. Neeb is currently ranked 6th. So he is incredibly good. He may not be like a massive household name or anything, but getting up there to like the top 10 of the Grand Masters League really is a top-notch player, and obviously being MMR, putting me against someone like Stephano is as well incredibly good. So I think this game should be absolutely spectacular, and I'm really excited to see what these two are going to do, how well they play, and just generally what happens in this game. I don't know how long it is. I managed to do a fantastic job of hiding that even from myself, so everything that happens now will be a bit of a surprise to me. But currently Neeb just starting off nice and slow, getting down a barracks first. Stephano should be going for a hatch first, 15 hatch, 16 pool, a very common opening up against Terran. Then his choice really is whether he goes for a quick third base, which is quite common if your opponent takes a relatively early expansion, or whether he tries to put on some pressure, because that's something which a lot of Zerg metagame seems to have shifted towards actually, is that even if you get the third base down, you get a Rotron relatively quickly to deal with, say, the Hellions or a couple of Widow Mines and things like that. And then, actually, it's really quite beneficial, actually, if you get, say, 10 Roaches out and come and pressure the natural with that while droning heavily behind and securing your third. I've seen Snoot use it incredibly effectively. I've actually got a couple of games on my channel from Snoot against Terran players when he actually does that to much success. And the reason it works is because it really punishes greedy Terrans, which there are more and more of, where they'll take a 1-Rax command center into a second command center before getting anything else. Stephano's Overlord is in a bit of trouble here, and it should only just get away. It may not, though, actually. It's going to be fairly close. It's desperately trying to get over it. I think it should just make it, but yeah, if that second Marine gets out, if it was a bit sooner, it may have been able to. Stephano with a little bit of a misstep there, but yeah, it should now get away. There we go. So we'll be able to escape to freedom with just 20 health. So a very risky move there. Didn't manage to see anything important. No, did not see the command center come down or anything else. The Overlord, the Overlord is going to get picked off because the barracks actually floating forward to grant vision. Really smart move here by Neeb, and this is actually going to be quite problematic for Stephano, because it could potentially will supply block him, and straight away he's going to have to build another Overlord, which is 100 minerals and a lava that he doesn't really have spare at this early stages in order to break the supply block, which he hasn't hit yet, but clearly he can get 3 more drones. It's going to be problematic. Here comes down the Overlord. It's something that he wouldn't have wanted to make, but also it's denying his scouting, and that's actually the bigger issue for him, is when you think that usually a Zerg player has an Overlord up on this cliff here, you can see if any units come out and basically move towards you so you can make a wave of units. However, without that Overlord there, suddenly Stephano is somewhat blind to what's going on. We do see that the factory is getting started, the 2 gas already up. Meanwhile, for Stephano, he's just droning. He's droning, he's got his queens, he's got 1 gas started, zergling speed, and then pulled the drones out. So not likely to be going for the roach route, and just probably going to be getting a few lings out to hold the watchtower, make sure he's got a good read on what his opponent's doing, and then just trying to secure his third base up, because with this natural here for the Terran, you've got to get a third base, usually by about the 6-minute mark, to be honest, otherwise you will start falling behind. But Stephano actually favouring getting a lot of Zerglings out, going for a big speedling push into the natural, and with only 2 Marines here, this could actually do a lot of damage. Potentially, this could knock out, well, force a lift at the natural, and potentially as well pick off the mule, definitely the SCVs, and the units coming out, the 2 Hellions most likely, will have to be very cautious. Some Terrans do get 2 Widow Mines in order to help the defense, but that's usually after these first 2 Hellions. Meanwhile, Stephano taking his third base behind this. The Speedlings are on their way forward. There's no scouting information at all. The second supply depot coming down, just trying to create a bit more of a wall off here. But of course, when these Lings run in, this is not something that Neeb is likely to be expecting, and straight away the SCVs, the mules, are taking a lot of fire, are getting taken out, and with the Hellions here, it should get cleaned up, but this is already done quite a sizable amount. Even though only 2 SCVs were killed, 2 mules were killed as well, and those mules very, very important in the early game to give you a very substantial boost to your income. And, well, it's effectively 10 SCVs for a while. So because of that, Neeb is obviously not going to be in as comfortable spot as he may like. He is getting down a starport very early on with a reactor on it as well, so it's not what we saw in the end of Wings of Liberty where the metagame was going reactor Hellions into Cloak Banshee, but rather just getting down a Viking and a medevac. So the Viking's going to go straight to work picking away at these overlords. The medevac ready for potentially dropping into the main base, which is slightly exposed. Stephano doing a really nice thing here though with the double evolution chamber wall off at his natural. He can also throw down a spine and put some queens in the way in order to block it completely, but he already knows the Hellions are coming, so this is pretty much a direct response. You've got the Hellbats also on their way. Hellbat drops very potent against Zerg, just because the Hellbats can take so much damage, and especially when there's only Zerglings, it gets increasingly harder with Lings compared to, say, having a few rotas out to deal with those Hellbats, which is another reason why early game we do see some Zergs favouring going for that. But great little sandwich here by Stephano, picking off all of those Hellions. Absolutely perfectly done. Running just some around the back. However, Viking is working away at yet another Overlord. This will supply block Stephano, and he hasn't yet started another Overlord. I don't believe he's got the lava for it. No, he does after the last inject finish, but in comes the Hellbat drop. Now, we do see that a single Spore Caller on its way down, but nothing else there. The two Hellbats come out, get only 2 drones though, so could do a bit more. The lava could get focused. That would be a really nice way to use these Hellbats, but currently just focusing the Spore, trying to make sure that the medevac can get away safely. Meanwhile, the Lings all getting pulled back here, but the medevac gets away. No damage taken by Neeb for that push, but he managed to get just 2 drones, which isn't a huge amount, but it also wasted quite a bit of mining time as all of the drones were pulled back. More Lings are in production for the time being. Stephano's also getting quite a nice lot of creep spread going. This medevac does have to be a little bit cautious though. Does drop it down, but of course if those Hellbats want to get out, the medevac has to go back, but of course with the Queen there and such low health, he was not able to do so. +1 ground carapace coming down for the Zerg player. More Hellbats dropping out at the moment, and this is quite a big commitment to Hellbats from Neeb. Most likely just going to be meching, but actually no, he's not meching behind this. He's actually going down for the double infantry upgrades and is going to be going into a more traditional bio style. So this is really interesting use of the Hellbats, and it may potentially throw Stephano off. I don't believe his vision has actually seen this, but if you see this many Hellbats, you're usually going to expect some kind of mech play just due to how many there are on the field. But if we take a look at Stephano's vision, actually no, he hasn't seen anything down here, and it is now having to try and deal at his third base with a lot of Hellbats here. The Zerglings are clumping up, unfortunately allowing them to get taken out very easily, and if we look at the resource slots, it's fairly equal, and that in itself being fairly equal isn't too good for Stephano, who's had to pump an awful lot of Zerglings to deal with all of this. Another double Hellbat drop coming into the main base, and Stephano is behind in the work account, just due to being forced to produce so many Lings. The Spire is on its way down, not quite sure where that is, but I'll have a look in a second. At the moment, these Hellbats are dealing a lot of damage to all of those Zerglings, being really cost effective here. The Spire coming down at the natural, I do not believe that Neeb's seen it, no he hasn't, and he's now just pulling out. He's staying very harassment heavy, forcing a lot of Zerglings out of Stephano, preventing his own work account from getting too high. Currently both tied at 53 to 53, but the third command center for the Terran player is nearly complete. That's going to be an orbit command very shortly, at which point there'll be 3 mules, effectively giving Neeb a 15, or roughly about 15 worker advantage. So here we go, the Hellbats yet again doing some nice damage, very queen heavy by Stephano, which I like. It's allowing him to pick off these medevacs, really reducing how effective the Hellbats can be, and also queens fare very well against Hellbats just on their own, so that's always good to see. Meanwhile, we've got more Hellbats dropping around absolutely everywhere. You can see the Neeb has managed to kill 8-10 workers this game so far, and actually with that means that he's forced so many Zerglings, and I know I've said that a couple of times, but it is just such a critical point. Stephano is actually behind on workers. He won't be after this 8 drone wave comes through, but all in all, he's been forced to make a lot of Lings. He's not in the same economic position he'd like to be. He hasn't been mining effectively off of this 5th and 6th gas, which means the number of Mutalisks that's going to be coming out is lower than he would like. We do also see that the Spire is researching the +1 flyer arm weapons, the Baning Nest coming down, so it's a Ling Bling Muta style, which has become very popular for a lot of Zergs against Terran. But currently Neeb, he's just got a really nice composition. The only thing that's really been delayed, because he's gone for so many Hellbats, are tanks. If we take a look at the unit tab, he's got absolutely no tanks out on the field yet. Another Hellbat drop coming down. Gets a queen there. Luckily Stephano has a couple spare, more drones getting taken out. The rest of the drones were pulled, but this just in itself, only 13 workers have been killed, but just look at this. Neeb has been ahead in the work account for a long period of time. He's also got his 3rd orbital command he's taking at the moment. Factoring in those mules, he's been ahead economically. Really important. That Overlord does manage to get away. The Viking will now get picked off by the Mutalisks, but this has just been really solid play by the Terran player. And Stephano needs to really come back at him, and these mutas may allow him to do so, but being revealed so early just means that 2 missile turrets are already on their way down. The third one is in the mineral line. The natural doesn't have many, but there is the bunker there, and the third base is the only potential vulnerability. A missile turret is nearly complete. The Mutaflock is up at 14, so can focus that down fairly easily. A couple of Marines are in there as well. The SCVs constructing these supply depots get picked off quickly, and that's always a very good thing to snipe off, because you delay the supply, it means the Neeb has got effectively a bit of a supply block here, and is therefore unable to produce. Stephano also taking his 4th base. The Mutas just being very proactive, and that's what you've got to, how you've got to play Mutalisk style anyway, is you've got to be constantly poking, constantly prodding, trying to deal damage anywhere and everywhere you can, because if you don't, a Terran is just going to build up a force and clump up and just come and A-move you, and you will have some problems with that. So, in come the Mutas, going to pick up some reinforcements, exactly how Stephano wants to be playing this, doing a really good job with it. You can see that Stephano is actually playing nearly 400 average APM, which is pretty sick. He's also forcing now Neeb to pull back some more of these SCVs, getting some revenge for all the drones that died to Hellbats earlier. Still just pushing back, pushing forward, trying to get himself out of this tight little position here where he's slightly trapped, it might be worth saying, because he can't get out either way without taking quite a lot of fire from a decent number of Marines, which ultimately could kill a Mutalisk or 2 or 3. But here they come, just going to skirt around. Neeb though with a good stim, keeping these Mutas trapped, preventing Stephano using them where he needs to, which is poking and dealing damage. Does manage to snipe off an add-on there. There was no cancel, gets an SCV building a barracks as well, hurting the production capabilities of Neeb. Stephano droning behind this as well, and it's going to put him above the 70 mark. He's also got +2 flyer attack, so really committing to this. Does manage to sneak the Mutalisk out now. Neeb, with a slight lack of, or with a slight slip of concentration on controlling them, just means that he's now going to have to very quickly pull down here, but Stephano getting a good amount of damage done. Could also start focusing down a couple of these Hellbats, but the Marines stim over, come and do more damage, with 10 more Mutas on their way out. This is going to take us up to 28 Mutalisks on the field. An incredibly large flock, and with a +2 flyer attack can be very, very powerful. However, Stephano, what he isn't aware of, or he should be aware of, is that of course double upgrades are coming, but 3-3 already getting started, so very early on there, and that's going to really allow Neeb to deal with those Mutas quite effectively with Marines. So that's something that he's got to be slightly cautious of. The main base is looking slightly vulnerable, because with just 2 missile turrets here, the Overlord could actually tank up some of the damage, while the Mutas focus down one of the missile turrets, or they could just fly in and focus them down anyway, and that appears to be what Stephano's planning on doing. Takes them down nearly instantly. Meanwhile, we've got a big push coming forward from Neeb, and he's just going to be able to just straightforward move. And the problem for Stephano is he doesn't have many Zerglings on the field, only 16, a lot of Banelings, but that may not be enough. Meanwhile, we see that the Mutas are starting to fall back. Looking up here though, this infantry pool is so large for Neeb. He's got so many units on the field coming straight up towards his 4th base, supplied by Stephano by taking out the Overlords, and now Stephano has got to deal with this fairly quickly. He's going to lose his 4th base, pretty much guaranteed. In come those Mutas, the Hellbats just covering the ground, so if any Zerglings or Banelings came in, they would tank up the majority of damage, but in comes a massive group of Banelings, dealing so much damage to absolutely everything. Good splitting by Neeb, and in terms of how cost effective that was, I don't think it was that great. Stephano used a lot of Banelings there to kill all of the infantry, admittedly, but of course just look at the production capability out at the moment for Neeb. He's got so many additional barracks. He's producing 10 Marines at a time. They're soon to be 3-3, getting the medevac production out as well. And that was really the biggest loss for Neeb there, was the fact that he lost all of the medevacs with his army. He needs to be careful, these 2 running forward as well. They are just free to those Mutalisks. You cannot afford to sacrifice medevacs for nothing. The other medevacs also getting focused down, and once they are gone, the infantry becomes a lot more vulnerable. Stimming has to be used so much more conservatively in order to conserve your army and use it effectively. We've seen that the 4th base is now down for Neeb. It's going to become a planetary fortress, which is always a safe move. The 4th and 5th base getting simultaneously taken by Stephano after getting his 4th sniped off, and this game is actually incredibly close. If we look at the worker supply, 60 to 66, but with 3 mules, Neeb ahead economically. The only thing really Stephano can hope to do is get up this 4th and 5th base fairly quickly and take the gas, because that's what he really needs. He needs to be able to support this hive tech he's just started. The Mutas have got to keep working very effectively though. 31 Mutalisks can do a lot of damage, but you've got to do that damage with them, otherwise you'll be running into some issues. And of course, if you run into those issues, that is when, or if the army can't come over, that's when you start losing the 4th base, as we saw earlier, potentially the 5th base as well. The Marines getting just taken in a head-to-head fight just due to so many Mutalisks being out, and with the +2 flyer attack. But as you can see here, Neeb is trying to push forward. Good blink control. The Banelings are detonating as best they can on the Marines, saving the Marauders. form, soaking up too much damage. You see the Orbital Command at the main base of Neeb does get taken out, but the 5th base of Stephano will fall to this infantry. Only one medevac there, though, is not going to provide much healing. Could do with being very cautious at this point, because literally when those mutas come back, they'll be able to engage very nicely. A scan goes off, just trying to pick off a couple of those creep tumors, stop it spreading too much more forward. Reinforcements coming in as well. Stephano now has to be slightly careful because there's a lot more marines in here, but as long as the mutas just take a couple of volleys and pull back before taking too much fire, they should be fine. But here we go, a bit of a head-on engagement here. The Banelings rolling in, a couple detonate on some Hellbats, and of course the Marauders getting focused by the Mutalisks at the moment. The medevacs also need to get taken out by those mutas. The Planetary Fortress potentially very vulnerable to Mutalisks just due to only having the single missile turret, but ultimately Neeb is on 4 bases up against Stephano's 4 bases, but Neeb has lost a lot of SCVs after having his main taken out, so that's the real big difference in the game, where Stephano has taken a slight lead. 3-3 infantry, weapons and armor are complete for the Terran player. Meanwhile 2-2 is done for Stephano, 3-3 on its way, and the Ultralisk Cavern just starting. So these mutas have been able to keep Neeb's economy down, but they haven't managed to contain Neeb so far. He hasn't felt the need to sit back and defend, instead being very aggressive, and that aggressive style play is preventing Stephano taking expansions as easily as he would like. And as long as Neeb keeps expanding, then actually his economy won't get too badly affected, and that's what Stephano has got to be slightly cautious of. But he's up to a nice drone count, he's got the Ultralisk Cavern nearly complete. The medevac count is looking a lot more healthy though for the Terran now, and of course those mutas are now being used in a defensive capability as opposed to harassment capability. A couple of drones will get taken down here, actually a lot of drones going down. Pretty much all of the drones at this 4th base were taken out, leveling out the workers killed count, and yet again starting to really level out in terms of the worker count on the field. The Banelings, the Zerglings and the Mutalisks all want to engage with good preemptive splitting here from Neeb. He needs to be careful not to pump up his units, otherwise those Banelings and Zerglings will do a tremendous amount of damage, and in come the Zerglings trying to stop the escape. But the Banelings already getting some good connections. Neeb losing a relatively small amount of his army there, and will be able to pick up this 4th base. Stephano behind in supply, but he does have some ultras on their way. However, my slight concern is though that the ultras are completely unsupported. It's Ling Bling Muta Ultra, there's no infestors, no pathogen glands started, so that means no fungal growth in order to pin the infantry in place. And as a result, Stephano will need to get a very good attack angle with the Zerglings coming from behind, preventing the retreat of the Terran forces, allowing the ultras to close up the distance. If he's able to do that, then yes, a lot of damage can be done. If he isn't though, then guess what? The infantry will kite the ultras all day long, and then they will do very little damage and will just die. To summarise what we've seen so far though, the mutas are now becoming a lot less effective. Neeb is able to just be everywhere at once, he's got a good army supply, he's got a lot of bases and a decent income, and due to that, the mutas have got to go in and try and do some more damage. This 3rd base has got a bunker and a missile turret there. We see already a 5th command center coming down, but the mutas being forced to stay back to try and help defend just due to how much map dominance the Terran player has at the moment and just how much supply advantage he's got in terms of the units on the field. And if we take a look at the army supply tab, we can see just how far ahead Neeb is there. The ultras coming in, a transfuse did go down. The Mutalisks trying to focus the medevacs as quickly as possible, but as we see, there is the GG from Stephano, and Neeb does take the game. Very, very well done. He lost, his early aggression was really helpful, and just those Hellbat drops were very, very effectively used, and as a result, he was a very worthy winner. Stephano though, his Mutalisk control was really nice, lots of harassment, always great to see. So, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did to cast. If you did like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, leave a cool comment, and of course subscribe. I get new games up daily. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Madals, and I'll catch each and every one of you tomorrow for another new cast. Bye for now.